David and Wiebe interviews and music business podcast, episode 37. So I think I'm finally figuring out the audio issues with my mobile gear. And in this episode, you won't just be hearing my voice on the left side and Anna's voice in both sides or anything weird like that. However, you might hear a little bit of excessive breathing, and the reason for this is because I was affected by a flu and had some respiratory things. Don't worry, I'm okay. And Anna ended up having to hold her mic because I forgot a mic clip, and so even though dynamic mics do cut down on outside noise, they do tend to pick up those kinds of things. But you can follow along with us in the show notes at dawcast.com, dawcast.com. You can also check out the resources page while you're there. And in this episode, we've got Amanda Palmer, The Art of Asking, and Alternative Performances and Distribution.
Welcome to the show. We are your hosts, David Andrew Wiebe and
Anna May Alexander.
For you and I, it's been since January, but our listeners are not aware because I've been putting out bonus material weekly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should do a e-interview with Urban Thrift and Style Matters that I keep talking about there.
Definitely. Just bring a cell phone along or my digital recorder along wherever you go.
Yeah, we could do it that way too.
You never know what's going to happen. Like I was at a drum workshop just the other night, Monday night, a drum clinic. Larnell
Nice.
Lewis was in town, and I managed to snag a quick 6-minute interview with him. So
Stellar.
yeah,
Sweet.
I'm not sure if to build a full episode around that or just release it as a bonus quickie interview, but
We do quickies. I'm the bad person on this podcast, aren't I? I'm the one who drags us morally down. And I'm the girl.
more than likely. So what's going on with you, Anna?
Well, coming up, I've got Boob Rock 2013 on May 18th at Varsity Community Center. There will be 3 bands, Pink Lemonade, All Hands on Jane Again, and, oh god, who are the last guys? Sorry, Big Shiny Dudes.
Big Shiny Dudes.
90s cover band, if you can't tell.
I like it.
Awesome, yeah. Cat Star Photography will be there with a photo booth. There will be pinup girls signing photos from the World of Wheels show. Of which I am one, which is a little funny to think about. But I've got 12 beautiful women and their photos, so please come get them. And a silent auction.
Excellent.
Some really neat things. A couple pieces of art donated, an Epicure bag so far. Some photography packages from Totem Photography. Some really neat stuff.
Time, place, date?
May 18th, as I said, at Varsity Community Association. Doors at 7, show at 8. Working on bringing you a good show.
Excellent. Very good. Well, for me, the last 3 weeks, I have kind of had an up and down with a flu or a cold, or I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
Can't decide if I'm sick again or still sick. Began with a cough, and then I had a fever hit me like a wall for about 3 days. And then I had a cough again, and then I was fine for a bit, and then I had a sore throat, and then 2 days ago I had a fever and just drizzling all over, sinus. So
I have a bird in this home. What if you have the bird flu?
that would be pretty weird, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be horrible if my poor little captain got the flu?
I think I'm on the path to recovery. Let's just say TGIF, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. Another event I want to mention, because this is a great little event. There's something going on at Cowboys on May 16th. Please come to Boob Rock, but please also go to Flying High. It is an aviation scholarship fundraiser in memory of Nicole Stacy. Nicole Stacy was a member of the local reserves. Pardon me, I can't remember which unit, but she passed away, I think it was about last year, and this scholarship is in her name. She was a pilot, and I do believe she passed away up north. Really fantastic little fundraiser. It's with the aim of helping future prospective students and current students reaching their dreams and their careers at aviation at Mount Royal College. Tickets are $15 each, valid for no cover and VIP access before 10 yeah, come on down. They'll have model Halen Q signing autographs, and Bling It On, which is a local custom accessories company. And yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, it sounds quite exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else before we move on?
Anything else? Wow, life has just been crazy lately.
Yep.
I recently attended the Comic Expo.
Yeah, that happened. It came and went, and I didn't even get a chance to...
Came and went. Holy cow. It was a busy weekend. Attended a lot of panels, a lot of information on producing for me to learn about. Lots of different things that I wouldn't consider. Got to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double.
Interesting.
Maybe attending some courses with him in September.
Acting courses?
Stunt courses.
Okay.
Depend on a couple things. But definitely looking into doing that. And interesting fact, Arnie comes up to about his shoulder if you Google him. Peter, is it Kemp or Kent? Oh God, Peter Kent.
Is he like 6'6" then?
Well, Arnie's not very tall.
I had heard such rumors, and then I looked it up, and he's actually 6'1" apparently.
Is he? Let me look how tall Peter.
Of course, most people apparently shrink when they reach the 30, once they cross that bridge, but I don't know. At his tallest, he was supposed to have been 6'1". I had also assumed that he was like 5'6" or 5'7" all along.
Yeah, well, I know he's shorter. I have a friend who worked for him in California.
Yeah.
And said he was rather small. So...
maybe he is about 5'8", 5'9". Stallone's supposed to be in that range, 5'8", 5'9".
You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just really funny when you look at the photo of his stunt double, who actually resembles him quite nicely. He's just taller. If you see them all done up, you're like, oh, that could be Arnie from a distance. But yeah, Peter, what's his name? Oh God, I suck. It's Peter. Give me a sec. I will have it for you.
But definitely when you think of Arnie, you think of intimidating, you think strong, bold, sort of, presence to him.
And this guy has quite the presence, pardon me. Peter Kent.
Peter Kent.
Apparently, we've also got an MP named Peter Kent. Who'd have thunk? But yeah, you see photos of them. I guess Arnie doesn't quite go up to his shoulders, maybe about his nose, but he's still quite a bit shorter, which is funny when you see photos of the two of them dressed up the same, standing next to each other. He's got an excellent little stunt school there in Vancouver. 2 weeks, you even get lit on fire. Learn how to be hit by a car.
Wow.
Swung around on a rope. All kinds of fun things. So.
What else can I say about me? I guess one thing that's been working pretty well for me that I've been trying out is scheduling my day. I have done that before where, I jump onto Google Calendar and color code it, do the whole thing. I must have done it 2, 3, maybe even 4 times, and every time I'd end up quitting it. But I've been doing that a little more consistently, and the first thing I found was, wow, I actually have an hour in my day that I don't do anything with.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm like, sweet, I discovered an hour.
Honestly, a man as busy as you are, I'm surprised you don't have your day quite structured.
Yeah, obviously, I've got little things in place like, okay, this is the hours that I work for Toon City, and this is the hours that I go out and teach. And all that's pretty consistent, but then, what about the evenings? What about supper time? What about lunchtime? What about before work begins? And all those things sort of start to factor in.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But today was also the perfect example of how that can sometimes fall apart and some things unexpected can happen. I was on Stony Trail, so on Fridays I have a student way down south, and this is one of the reasons I'm kind of looking to phase out teaching is the driving, but all the way down south in Bonaventure area.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So then I got to drive back up to Scenic Acres area. And so that takes, it should only take 25, 30 minutes, but on a Friday with all the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could take 45 minutes to an hour, I've discovered.
Oh, good Lord.
So anyway, today there was some kind of major accident on Stony Trail. And I mean, I've got about 3 different options of how I can get there to Scenic Acres, and I guess I just picked the wrong one. So
oh, man.
That ended up delaying me 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then everything was being directed to Crowchild Trail, which of course was also being clogged because of all the traffic being directed there.
Oh, fun.
So I had to take another route down 14th Street, which by 3:30, as you know, on a Friday is already pretty busy.
Yep, 14th can get busy, yep.
And so I must have arrived about 37 minutes late.
Oh, lovely. That always goes over well with clients.
Well, you know, the clients are pretty forgiving. I've tried to make sure that I explain up front that it's pending traffic and weather conditions, so things can happen, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
In that regard. So, yeah.
I guess that's something I still don't get about guitar teachers, and I guess that's where you guys get the short end of the stick. You know, coming from a classical background, you attend your teacher's house.
Yeah.
There are rigid times. There are waiting spots prior to your lesson. If you are late, that's too damn bad. You paid for it. And then, you know, I watch guitar teachers driving all over the city, getting paid nowhere near what they're worth. I guess there's a lot of guitar teachers in the world. However, something's got to change.
Yeah. You know, I think you could put those boundaries in place, but then you have to look at how much are you working by comparison, and is it worth the amount that you're saving in gas? So, I mean, those are different considerations that you'd have to look at. It's like, okay, maybe I'm teaching less, but I'm saving in gas and upkeep with the vehicle. Maybe it would be worth it to do things that way. But in a city like Calgary, I think part of the problem is just urban sprawl. As we know, it's probably one of the largest cases of urban sprawl in North America. Mm-hmm. So are people really going to drive to your house, even if they really, 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 really like you? I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. In classical music, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You go to the studio, you take your lessons, and the studio is usually someone's basement, you know, fairly nice little setup, usually not super fancy, but there's usually grand piano, music stand, whatever you need, and you work your butt off for an hour. Usually there's people waiting to go after you and someone who leaves before. There's no fooling around. There's no lates. The teachers earn significantly more than I've seen a guitar teacher earn.
Yeah.
And it's funny that we've placed this odd kind of value on some instruments over others.
Definitely.
If you know what I mean.
I think there is some competition, and there are stores I've seen that now offer in-home lessons as well. So from stores, teachers are now driving to students' homes.
Crazy.
And these stores don't exactly have a reputation for paying a lot either.
I don't get this.
No, I think it's just developed to that point. I've come up with ideas as far as like offering premium guitar lessons. But then I had to ask myself, how much do I want to continue? Like, I think I know what I'm worth. I think I could charge upwards of $150, $200 a lesson if I did it right. If I offered all the material and had some nice booklets made up for them and offered online resources and free access to all that kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure it could be a way more viable business, and I wouldn't have to teach like 30 students or whatever. I could teach 10 or even 5 and be done with my week. But do I want to go that direction?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's just something that I find funny about the music industry in general is we place value over certain instruments. You know, singers are kind of the bottom.
Yeah.
Guitar teachers and guitar players sadly aren't much higher. Bass players are sometimes higher on the totem pole, and sometimes depends on whether or not you can find bass players at the time. So, you know, then they become more valuable, but often are not treated as though they even are real musicians.
Most of the time they're just underrated.
Well, yeah, and a lot of the same thing with guitar players. Oh, yeah, I can play Kumbaya around the campfire, so anybody can do that. Guitar, you know, whatever.
Like 1.5 chord.
Yeah. I've got this. And we have this weird hierarchy of what is a musician and what's not, and who deserves to be paid and who should be allowed in a band, and the same thing goes with teachers too. And you know, I gotta sometimes wonder, is one person really doing more than the other? You know, I've often heard in the classical music world, oh, you're just a singer, you don't have to spend $4,000 on your instrument. Well, no, my lessons in general can be a lot higher than some instruments. You know, classical voice lessons, I've taken lessons for $65 a half hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still investing quite a bit of money on my instrument. I also have to invest on the health of myself, which every musician should be doing.
Yeah.
But every little thing really does affect your voice, and
Yeah.
that can start to add up in cost. And, but it's not really an instrument, and anybody can sing, right? So it's interesting when you start hearing people talk about each other and looking down their noses, and it's like, really, guys, we're all musicians.
Yeah.
We all have value.
Yeah.
Why are we being snobby jerks?
It's the whole outliers thing, right? It's 10,000 hours, and that's what it takes to become a master of something. And for some people it might be more, some people it might be less, but I mean, on average, that's where it, you know, that would be the medium amount of time that you'd want to spend to kind of master your craft. And so I played lots of gigs while I was still maybe in that 3-year or 4-year stage where maybe I hadn't put in 10,000 hours yet.
Yeah.
And I can recognize that now, that it's just a matter of paying the price.
You got to have a certain amount of crappy gigs is another thing that nobody really pays any attention to. I was told when I started improvising, you're going to have 30 shows where you suck. Deal with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the same with music. We certainly are able to practice a little more. You practice in improvising, but there's some things you can practice in music and lock down your performance before you get on stage, and you can't do that with improvising. But you're going to have a certain amount of music shows where you suck.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
I think it comes down to finding people that have done what you want to do. And so if your commitment level or the amount of success or lack of success you want to create is playing open mics and hosting them, which again, it's not a bad gig. Actually, open mic hosts do get paid pretty decently.
Some of them do, yeah.
If that's your goal, talk to those people. But what if your goal is long term? You know, you want to accomplish some big things. You got big dreams. You want to make more than just enough for yourself to live on. What does that look like? So you got to go talk to people who've done that and learn from them. And, you know, LL Cool J's first show probably was not his best.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the rap hip hop world is like, but I'm sure that, and he was a hard worker, you know?
Well, and then there was us at the show we just did the other day, and I'm listening to the rapper going, oh my God, that's exhausting. So imagine what it was like for LL Cool J, you know?
Dragonfly Empire.
Dragonfly Empire.
Yeah,
I'm listening to Dragonfly Empire going, I can't talk that fast.
Yeah.
I talk. You know me, I talk. There is no way I could do an hour set of what Dragonfly Empire does.
Yeah. He's quite good. As a duo, you know? I don't think I've really seen hip-hop live.
Yeah. Nee Jamfi is another favorite local hip-hop artist.
There are a few. Well, actually, I guess I've seen Transit live.
You've seen Nee Jamfi before, too.
Have I?
Yes, you have, at that one we did down south.
Okay.
The one gig we did, the fundraiser World Harvest. You would have heard Nee Jamfi there.
Okay. I'm forgetting gigs for some reason.
It's okay. We do a lot. We're doing a lot of gigs. I guess we're gigging less right now. We're all so busy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that show that we did with Dragonfly Empire was also with Setembrio.
Yes.
Who'd recently lost their bass player.
Yes.
I think it was the only guy I'd met from the band, so it's kind of a funny situation.
Yep.
And it was Greg Park's photography.
Yes.
Music industry photography project, right? Yeah.
Greg Park, huge champion of boob rock, huge champion of music in the city in general.
Yes.
I really like Greg's a nice guy to have in your corner.
Yes.
He's just such a fantastic guy, and you know, he's not a musician, but he has such an appreciation, and
he respects it a lot. Yeah.
Totally is respect. Totally, like, if you're a musician and you don't respect Greg Park in Calgary, I really, really question you. I know that sounds bad, but Greg's in everybody's corner, going to all different kinds of music. Doesn't matter if he likes it or not. He's listening to it. He's a fan. He's trying to get people out to shows.
Yeah.
He's trying to get different kind of genres mixing in the same room. I like Greg. I think he's a fantastic guy, and I really have a lot of respect for what he's doing.
Yeah, I thought it was actually going to be a little heavier on the photo exhibit side, like the way Keith did it. I'd been down to one of his.
Yeah.
yeah, I think Greg probably deserves a better show than
He
what could be
does.
offered at this venue. But
With more of his photography front and center.
yes,
He does, and Greg does what he does, and he does it well. And I don't know. I mean, if you haven't heard of Greg Park, Park with an E,
yep, Parke.
search him on Facebook. He's trying to photograph every musician in Calgary, which is a task.
Yes,
And he will probably never be able to finish that because there's always someone new. But Google him. Look at his stuff. It's really interesting. He's an amazing portrait photographer.
I could be just taking a stab in the dark here, but I think the reason why he's doing the exhibits now is because he's maybe going to put a halt on this project for a little while.
I think a little while. I know he's got some family stuff going on as
Yes,
well.
Exactly.
That's got him a little slowed down. But yeah, really incredible project. And I think also there's a point where you got to get out and sell your work.
Yeah.
It's like a musician, really. It's another art. It's another one of those things that can be underappreciated. And you got to get out and sell it. And Greg's got to get out and sell some of these portraits. And
That's right.
yeah.
Cool. Well, you wanted to talk about Amanda Palmer.
I did. The art of asking.
Yes.
If you have not seen this on TED Talk and you are any kind of an artist, I was going to say if you're any kind of performer, but really any kind of artist, if you paint, if you draw cave paintings, if you put mud together into neat sculptures, if you do sand art, I don't even know what that's called, castles, the really incredible sand stuff they do. I don't care what you do. If you are an artist, you need to go look at Amanda Palmer's TED Talk. And if you do fundraising or volunteering, you need to look at Amanda Palmer's TED Talk on the art of asking. I'm sitting here watching her talk about being a statue in Times Square, I think it was.
Handing out flowers, right?
Handing out flowers to people. And I almost want to go try this out, this human statue thing, just to see what it would be like to see that side of people after listening to her talk about it.
Yeah.
Really incredible. And then she gets and starts talking about her campaigns to get her fans in on producing albums with her, and people are going, oh, get a job, get a real job, blah, blah, blah. Well, really, do you know how much work goes into what she does, and why is what she does that is creative any less valid? And I gotta say, I've been in careers where your income is asking for. I was as you know, and our listeners are probably not aware, as I haven't talked about it, I was a missionary for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And even from my elders in the church, you heard from them, you should get a job, eventually a real job. You can't keep asking people for money. It's not a very honorable thing to be doing. So, this is fun while you're young, but don't become a career missionary. And I stop and think about that now, and how ridiculous is that? Because how many career missionaries went and did some incredible things, and people that I got to work with. But also as musicians, how is what we do any less valid? And we do need to look at other ways of earning income. Yeah. But it's a thing is, and I struggle with this too, like asking for help on boob rock. Can you help me with sound? Can you help me as a band? By the way, if anybody knows any sound techs, mine can no longer make it. I need a new one. And, I still find myself almost apologizing on the way in, partially because of what we're talking about with the atmosphere in town here, where you're expected to work for free all the time. But partially because society tells us that it's wrong to ask. Yeah. I just end up meeting the most interesting people, the most beautiful donations. One of them I'll tell you guys about on a later podcast because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but just the most beautiful donations and people wanting to help the Nichols, people wanting to help the Cancer Foundation. And yet I feel guilty asking. What's up with that? Mm-hmm. We shouldn't. Sitting and talking with some of the other producers on Pathfinder, I think I've talked about Pathfinder and how we're doing music quite a bit. I don't know if I've mentioned I'm one of the producers, and I don't know if I've mentioned that Odyssey has changed names to Pathfinder.
That you may not have.
I may not have mentioned that. Odyssey is now Pathfinder. Look us up on Facebook. But one of the producers, we're all sitting there talking about asking for money and changing the scale of what we're doing. And I'm going, my gosh, I feel kind of guilty asking for more from people. And the one producer has a little more experience. And he says, I met somebody who donated a significant amount of money or invested a significant amount in one of my films. And it's done quite well. But what the guy did is he handed me money, and as he's signing the check, he said, "Thank you." And I'm going, "Well, no, thank you." And the guy said, "Well, I don't think you understand. In his career, he doesn't have a lot of creative outlets, but he makes a lot of money. So with the money he has, he can go fund these creative things that make him happy and make him feel good." And what we forget often as artists is that there are people who want these things. There are people who want to spend $1,000 on a painting.
Definitely.
There are people who want to give you money to do your album. There are people who want to do these things because for whatever reason, they may be creative themselves. They don't have the time. They might be a CEO of a business. They're busy people. But they just think the world is a better, more enriched place.
That's great.
So you're doing them a favor and they're doing you a favor.
Yeah. Another interesting part about that statue story was how she said, I think she made about $50 a day on average. So sometimes a little less and sometimes a lot more.
Yeah.
And so she was like, it was pretty predictable and a consistent living for her.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty amazing too, right? Something that definitely can add value to people in a unique way, but like you say, not a conventional 9-to-5 job, despite all the work that probably goes into that.
It made me really rethink if you and I ever go do street performing again, how we do it and how we approach people.
It's about gestures and body language
and engaging with people. And the thing with street performing in Calgary, and perhaps part of it's our attitude, I'm not going to lie. It is easy to get discouraged street performing in Calgary. But the thing is it's very quick sometimes to feel like you are a beggar. People's response to you, people's attitude. And then, we'd meet the odd person who'd come by and throw us a 20 and say, "Thank you, I'm a business traveler coming through. This is awesome. If I come by later, you'll have more cash." And you're going, "Thanks." That's pretty awesome. But it's easy to feel sometimes doing these things like you're not contributing and not enriching when really the park is kind of nice with a little bit of music in it.
I've had some very unique experiences with busking, I'm not going to lie. So
Yes.
Jonathan Ferguson and I downtown, I think that's Stephen Avenue.
And some that you and I have had on Stephen Avenue.
Busking for who knows how long, hour and a half. We're like, I think it's time to wrap up. We got to get out of here. We've maybe, gotten a couple toonies thrown at us. Yeah, we know it's not all about money, but we're just making people angry, or this is just not the place to be. No sooner do we, prepare to play our last song. Guy walks up during the song, takes the money out of the case, runs with it.
Lovely.
Without saying a word. And
Lovely.
We're just stunned. There's no reason why we couldn't run after him, but we're just stunned. We're like, who would do that?
And don't ever risk your instrument running after that kind of a human.
There is that too.
Or standing there for hours and making nothing.
Or, the bridge just by Eau Claire there. Well, there was
fisticuffs.
There's a player in I won't say what instrument. He plays an instrument, and he plays in Eau Claire. So he's obviously on the Eau Claire Busking Association, which I had trouble getting into in the first place. They just told me, we're full, and they never offered me anything else about information or anything. Whatever. So then he's also performing outside on the bridge, which is one of the best places to be. And I was kind of confused because I'm going like, he already has
the indoor, which is amazing.
Great access to anywhere he wants in Eau Claire. He probably just has to rotate every hour with the other performers.
He doesn't rotate, though.
I don't know if he does or not.
Is that the same guy?
No.
Different guy. Oh,
Different
okay.
guy.
It's Claire is very down and dirty.
Competitive, I guess. Yeah. But I guess, street performing is what it is. I don't necessarily feel the need to go back to it. If I do, it'll be for fun, probably. And
It is kind of fun. It's a great way to rehearse, too, sadly.
Yeah.
I know that sounds bad, but we get some
It
of our
was.
best rehearsals busking.
yeah, we get to cover a lot of material that maybe we wouldn't normally.
And yeah, we kind of tighten up when you have to do things acoustic.
Definitely.
Can't always hear the other person when there's people running by screaming after their children or children screaming after whatever.
It's just it's a smorgasbord, I guess. If you're going to go out street performing, you can expect that you may have, I'm not saying it's all negative, it's all bad experiences. Those are just extreme cases
Oh
that
man,
I'm talking about.
little kids running up with their quarter, and they're so excited. They don't just drop it in there; they kind of throw it and it rebounds. And they're so excited to give you that quarter. It's unbelievable. Or little kids that just stop and start tugging mom and dad so they can listen or dance. I have to admit, I love children's reaction to music on the street.
Definitely.
Because adults can be a little, I don't know. I don't think that, and I think it's easy to think that people are being jerks or whatever, but I think a lot of the time people just feel guilty because they don't have a quarter in their pocket or they don't have a toonie.
Didn't think about that. Or, I think there is a smaller minority that really is aggressive, for lack of a better term.
It's a small minority. I think most of the people that make you kind of feel a little discouraged, really, it's not that they're trying to avoid you because they think that you're a bad person or that it's
homeless or
I think a lot of it. There are homeless people who are buskers and they're absolutely professional. There's a guy on a flute downtown and he's just incredible. Really like his professionalism, always gets his licenses and always respectful. But I think a lot of the emotion you're getting from people, as much as it's easy to demonize for both of us, really, to demonize, I think a lot of it is people feel guilty.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
And guilt's not a good emotion to feel, so.
No.
The other thing that I was thinking with Amanda Palmer there was just how she really just relates to her fans. And she's a bit of a controversial figure, but I don't really feel the need to get into that. You can,
Google the controversy.
Exactly. You could go watch the NSFW videos and you can go look at the various promo campaigns and the provocative pictures she's done, but not saying anything about that. I think she's just really built some amazing connections and relationships with fans, which isn't that what it's about, is building those relationships.
She does it a little different, and people can think what they like. I guess I come from a different world with my theater background. So some of the things she does are less shocking, I think, to me than they might be to more conservative folks. But I think you know what I'm talking about.
I've come across a far more controversial act recently.
Oh, of hers?
Not Amanda Palmer. They're called the Millionaires.
All right, I'll have to look that
They're
one
like
up.
Kesha on steroids.
Why something sounds familiar about this. I'll have to look it up again. But yeah, I mean, I think I know what instance, if you're referring to the TED Talks one or any others. Yeah, I think to me that's a little less shocking, especially once you start meeting European theater types and hearing what happens overseas.
Honestly, like maybe not
with
even
performers
within the TED Talk itself, because she talks about being naked and letting her fans draw on her and stuff like that. That's really just the tip of the iceberg, I think.
It is. Yeah, it is. And it's beautiful. And there's some interesting,
it's pretty interesting,
art projects that have been done recently with that, where people have... for example, and it's an experiment in people where the one artist, I think she had a bunch of weapons in a room and then also like a flower and some nice things, and said you could do what you want to her. And the room went from people, tentatively, somebody gave her a hug and, people tried to do a couple nice things to very quickly aggressive and negative, and they ended up ending it because I think somebody tried to burn the artist.
Wow.
So when I hear about Amanda Palmer, I guess And these are the tame things I've heard about performance art, and especially in Europe.
Yeah.
That one I think was done in New York. When you start hearing about some of the stuff that performers are expected to do in Europe in acting, I guess a lot is less shocking to me.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Anything else about Amanda Palmer?
Check it out. TED Talks is like my thing lately.
Yeah, there's a lot of great material.
A lot of great material. Listening to some really nice stuff on mental illness and dropping our perceptions and what's it called? Prejudices.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really respect. What's his name? In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, who's that author? Let me use the Google.
You're going to look it up, right?
I'm going to use the Google. He talks about that as well. Deals a lot with addictions in Canada, has done some groundbreaking work on mental illness and addictions, and talking about what's his name? Dr. Gabor Mate, talking about...
I remember you mentioning him, yeah.
Yeah, Gabor Mate, he's a really excellent doctor. Dropping what we think and dropping these mental illness things. You wouldn't walk up to someone with diabetes and go, wow, if you would just be happier, your diabetes would go away. And
kind of cruel.
I've been looking at a lot of mental illness stuff lately, and one person wrote how they felt when they were depressed, and another person, I just saw a really cool pictograph one yesterday, and I'm not going to try to Google that today, but talking about how kind of emotion leaves you when you're depressed, and everybody around you is going, would you just be happy? Here, I'm going to throw happy at you, like throwing stuff at a wall and hoping it sticks, and be happy, happy, happy. And the sick person is sitting here going, yay, I'm going to put my face in a happy position so that you feel like I'm relating to you. Oh, I'm not relating to you. This isn't working. I'll go see a doctor so that you feel better. And a lot of our reactions to people with mental illness are not helpful.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of these things in mental illness I'm really passionate about. I took a lot of my extra certificates for helping people with mental illness, and people are afraid to say anything. Yeah, part of it's because I do nutrition.
Yeah.
But part of it is because people have so much shame. We have so much stigma that now people are stigmatizing themselves. As well, coming up on Global, someone that I know personally will be talking about equine therapy and how it saved her life. And yeah, it's courageous to step up and talk about having mental illness in our society, but should it be considered a courageous thing?
Right.
1 in 5, I think the statistics are much higher, will suffer from depression or some kind of anxiety or some kind of mental illness. Chances are you're going to experience it in your life, or someone close to you is. I think we need to take the stigma out, because a lot of people won't get treatment because of it.
Yeah, I think like anything else, it is sort of victim to Hollywood a little bit.
Yeah.
We kind of glamorize it, and I know that's not quite the right word, but we just exaggerate
We exploit
it or make fun
it.
of it, or yeah, exactly.
For whatever means we want. We're going to use it for comedy today. We're going to use it for drama tomorrow. We're going to use it for horror in a week.
It was the movie like Rain Man. It was actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, but as is sometimes the case, like people who are autistic sometimes have a genius about them that you may not be aware of when you first meet them or come into contact with them.
And no illness is the same in two people, and mental illness is up there.
Right.
But anyways, I'm diverting. What I'm talking about is that's one of the things I started thinking about again off of some TED Talks, listening to this very successful CEO talk about his bouts with depression and what that looks like, and periods where, my rice is done, if that can be heard by our listeners.
Probably.
Periods where he couldn't get out of bed, so his university took pity on him and didn't give him a mark in college rather than let him have zeros,
That is a much kinder alternative.
It is fairly, very, very kind, and a lot of universities wouldn't do that. But talking about what was it, A-type depression or CEO with depression, it was a very interesting TED Talk listening to him talk. And I think there's a social shift starting to happen around mental illness, and I think we all need to think about it. Certainly people who are artists, we tend to feel quite
pretty
deeply,
intensely, yeah.
and which is what makes us brilliant artists. And a lot of artists have struggled with mental illness, some of them in secret, some of them very publicly, and I think it's something we need to consider and realize is that we are producing media that other people are consuming, and we have a bit of a responsibility, and we shouldn't take that too lightly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that isn't to say or to condemn anybody to, having a mental illness because they're an artist. I don't think it works that way. But
no, and I'm not trying to do that by any means.
Yeah, of course not. But simultaneously, it's a reality. Obviously, I've talked on the podcast about struggling with anxiety at one point. It was short-lived, but it was nevertheless very real for a short period of time. It's very difficult.
Exactly. So. And people listen to us. People are watching when you're an artist.
Yeah.
So if we get on stage and make jokes about, oh my gosh, I went crazy, and that might seem a little tame or whatever, but we do need to realize that how we talk about these things and refer to them, we are creating media that other people consume. And we need to realize that our attitude, if we stigmatize it, people look up to us, no matter how big your career is.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna move on.
This is a serious moment here, and I'm gonna stop being so serious so that we can have a little more fun with the guest.
Yeah, no, that's interesting discussion. I'm sure we could go on that for
probably, but I'll shut up now.
If you have any questions or comments regarding this podcast, send an email to comments@daw-music.com.
And we're back with today's closing segment. I wanted to talk about alternative forms of distribution and performance because I felt like I maybe glanced over it a little bit last time. Wasn't my intention, but we had a lot of stuff to cover.
We do cover a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And that's why I've written up outlines this time. I know it's the first time, but...
Oh my God, we've got an outline. We're so professional. Yeah. It only took 36 episodes.
This is way more...
Our listeners are probably going, say what?
It's way more together now because we can actually give a couple of days or a week of time to kind of think about what we're going to say.
Exactly,
what we want to say about. So I think that's going to just work a little bit better for structural purposes. I want to share my experience of alternative distributions and gigs. I'm not going to present them as being typical results.
For sure.
I don't think I've ever had, quote unquote, typical results in the music industry.
There's no such thing as typical when you're dealing with the arts. Yeah. Art is going to be expressed differently in every human being. So go to town.
and let me just say that there are like some documented cases of going very well, like guerrilla marketing or selling your music to a spa. I think you even mentioned something like that last time.
Yeah.
If you wrote like a really relaxing collection of 10, 12 songs and sometimes, licensing 500 or 1,000 CDs, or I've even heard of cases where somebody printed up 1,000 CDs, had no idea what to do with them, and then he became like a child's artist or, performance for kids.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah. So there's just all kinds of opportunities available. It's about being an entrepreneur and problem solving.
And really, there's a whole other area of music that gets discounted.
Yeah.
And there's some junky entertainment for children. But man, look at Fred Penner. He did some great stuff for kids. Absolutely fantastic. Didn't pander to children.
Yeah.
But also didn't go above them. And is his art any less?
No.
Exactly.
It can be very profitable. In fact, you can make a living, and sometimes better than that based on figures I've heard.
Oh, I would say, if you recall Sharon, Lois, and Bram, I saw the Wiggles recently. I actually didn't mind them compared to a lot of the other children's entertainment I saw that day. In the doctor's office, they play the kids' stuff. Holy crap. Some of it feels like pandering to children, if you know what I mean. And the Wiggles, I was like, oh, this really is reminiscent to me of Sharon, Lois, and Bram. Would I say it was the best entertainment? I'm not 5.
Yeah, exactly. Good answer.
A little older. So some of it I was going, some of it I was like, oh, that pirate thing looks fun.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it any less.
But I think there is sort of that problem solving element to it. So like as a musician, thinking about how you can solve people's problems with your music. And I think
Where's my niche?
Yeah, that was a challenging thing for me because I'm like, what is my CD about? And who specifically does this appeal to, you know? Mm-hmm. It's about relationships. So I'm like,
Yeah.
where does it fit in? And I was, you know, someone came to me and said, how about adult contemporary? And I was like, oh, well, I never thought that angle. You know, I never even considered it.
Yeah.
But maybe it would be a good angle to
for sure.
explore. But anyway, here's some of the things that I did. We'll start with distribution. So one of the things, because of some of my connections and friends that I had a friend that worked at Play, right?
Before they shut down.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the issue there. But, you know, there was HMV, and then sometimes in the malls, even before that, there was Sam's. And what else was there for CD stores? I feel like there was one more major
There was a
one
few.
for a while, but
HMV, Sam's.
I can't even remember them now. I know Future Shop still
I think
has
all that's
CDs.
left is HMV, and they're not doing well.
No, they're having to reshape their business quite a bit. So yeah, Play. I did get my CD in there. Part of that agreement was getting some posters done of some very unusual sizes. That's why I have those posters that you made fun of.
Only in love. Only in love.
Of course. So
I gotta bug you because you're like my big brother, right? So you know, I can joke that it's a little weird for you to put posters of you on some teenager girl's wall.
I don't know.
I gotta joke about it.
Who else is gonna buy them? I don't know.
I gotta joke about it because I don't know. It's like me when I'm selling photos, my aviation photos. I feel awkward. Can you sign this? Sure. What do you want it to say? Well, what do you want it to say? Anna. Like, I don't know. It's weird when people are like, oh, I'm going to put this up in my shop.
Totally.
Okay.
But what I appreciated about Play was that their willingness to serve the indie community and the local community.
Oh, they're fantastic for that.
Yeah, they were very good for that. And I guess the one challenging part was just keeping in touch, because that was the only way to know what sort of sale figures and if there was any money. They shut down before I even had that kind of meeting with the owner to figure that out. So like, I'm sure along with everything else in the store that was left, it got recycled and never to be heard of or seen again. So that was my experience with Play, but you know, I think I'm appreciative for it. And if it was a little more long term, there might have been some potential. Unfortunately, CD stores are kind of going the way of the dinosaur. That doesn't mean that CDs don't sell and that there isn't a market for CDs. It just means that...
I think the market for how you purchase your music is interesting, because there are people who are, I don't know if you want to call them purists, who have to have a CD because the sound is better. And then there's people who are like, it's going on my iPod. I just want an MP3. It'll be for me, whatever.
Exactly. The whole digital revolution.
Then people sitting around bitching about the quality. So
yeah, it's still ongoing. That hasn't really ended.
And there's
a
local guy in town who's trying to get cassettes out of people because he's collecting them. So
those don't last very long.
No, I don't get it. I mean, records I understand, but really?
Cassettes, hey.
It's interesting. So yeah, there's a market for anything if you...
That's right.
Want to go there.
I might be able to contribute to his collection.
Sure.
Another place where I did, I believe my CD came out while I was still working at Mercury Music, and that was in Bennington Town Center. So not a CD shop, but an instrument and lesson store.
Yeah. And there's a few in town that are super supportive.
Yeah.
Kick-Axe does that as well.
That was another place where that carried my CD.
Is it MCC?
Music Center Canada
has released CDs of local artists.
Correct. They actually record local artists too.
Yes. Once a year they have a competition, and local artists will be on their CD, which is usually really well done. Local radio stations will try to get people's music out.
Yeah.
CJSW is pretty supportive.
Yeah, CKUA, they definitely try to be a part of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
There was another location there. I think there's always been a coffee shop of some kind in Art Central, but for a while there it was the Palette. How would you describe the Art Central for people listening? It's like there's like art shops and graphic shops.
Yeah, and there's another interesting thing. It sounds like they'll be shutting that down and turning it into business space.
Oh,
it's
goodness.
Basically, yeah, there's quite the little thing going in the art community right now. I think I'm hearing more of it through my film contacts. They've got a couple cafes, they've art galleries, studio space. It's a place where you can hold receptions. There's film receptions there. So people in the film industry who want to kibitz and market themselves and network can meet on, I think, the first Thursday of every month. Don't quote me. I never can make it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just different events happen there. There'll be fashion shows. There's a couple clothing stores. Yeah, it's really neat. It's kind of a nice, fun place to sit. And if I want to write, I'll go there because I find sometimes being in more artistic spaces, I feel a little more creative. My only thing with Art Central is it feels a little forced. And part of that is Calgary. And maybe having gotten the blessing of living in Portland, Oregon, and spending a lot of time in Seattle, where things came up a little more organically. You know, a lot of the coffee shops support arts in general. So you'll have, you know, cafes where there's art hanging on the walls and tables where you can slide things in them and journals that you can start a story and somebody will come by and finish it, or just different things that organically happened. Whereas in Calgary, it feels forced sometimes because our community is a little spread out. Part of it's geography, part of it's the culture. I wouldn't say there's anything you can blame it on, but it's a little spread out.
It's a work in progress for sure.
It's a work in progress. So things can feel a little forced in some of these arts communities.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the Palette, I mean, there was this owner, Doug, who was outgoing and a little more aggressive with customers. So we would be playing there. We used to perform, and they didn't have elevators, so we had to lug our gear up 2 flights, which sometimes was a bit of a task. But,
yes.
yeah, especially in that place. Yeah, he would just get our CD out there while we were performing, even if it was like 5 people in a lunch hour or something. He would sometimes sell a couple, right? So, but he did express the challenge that it was hard to sell our CDs when we were not there performing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So, another case where I'm not sure, honestly, from any of those, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a paycheck. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're going to do alternative distribution. Unless you're licensing and you're getting a cut up front or payment up front for them to check in, make sure to figure out a way that you can check in regularly. Try to make it part of your day so you're not like going way out of your way to do it all the time. But try to follow up with them bi-weekly or monthly, whatever is kind of suited to that venue. And that's the only way you're probably going to see your money from that form of alternative distribution, is kind of what I've discovered.
Locally, I've heard a lot of artists say that they sold the most CDs at live shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of it.
You know, I think right now, the Gravity Espresso Wine Bar is still relatively new. They have carried a couple CDs, like 3 or 4 local acts. So because there's very little other competition, it's not like their CD is next to Katy Perry's or, you know, Bon Jovi's or anything like that. Sure. It's just that's all that's there. That can be to your advantage. Derek Sivers even talked about that. It's like if your CD is the only one in a grocery store, guess what? That's the only choice
going to get picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be the major advantage of going about that way. You also have to know, with probably 2 out of 3 places that I mentioned, or 2 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 that I mentioned here, there's probably not enough foot traffic to facilitate a lot of sales. And so that's another thing you might have to consider is, first of all, does your music fit the culture of that store? Because that way they can actually play it.
That would be excellent.
During store hours, and that might get you some royalties. Maybe not, but it'd be small. Yeah. But it could. And then maybe get you some sales as well if there's a decent amount of traffic. So that'd be another thing to consider. Then alternative performances. I've done a lot of different things, and I won't get into all of them in great detail, but there. This one's pretty memorable. This was an outdoor gig on the street, and it was a mental clinic hot dog lunch.
If you cannot see my expression, that was a little, and I say this after we had our discussion on mental illness, but there's a lot of really neat opportunities in the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, that people need to look at.
Yeah.
If you want, you can play at the hospital.
I've heard senior homes that can go over pretty well too.
The hospital has a musician in at a grand piano every single day during certain hours. I'm sure if you wanted to bring another instrument, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know if they pay, but there's a lot of really great stuff. And you never know. Somebody could be coming by going, we're doing a benefit because we need incubators in the children's ward. Would you be willing to come play? We can only pay you blankety blank, but I hate to say it, it might be more than a bar in this city. I know someone right now who's playing funerals because it pays really, really well. And she says people are super thankful. They come by and they give her hugs and say, thank you so much. That was so beautiful. My loved one would have loved that. And Jewish weddings apparently pay really well.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
but you must dress conservative.
There is maybe an unfortunate tendency to look at like wedding gigs or anniversary gigs, and I've played a few of those kind of things myself. It gets either overlooked or just kind of poo-pooed because it's not the right thing to do as a musician, or it's selling out. I don't know how you could possibly sing it.
I don't know if that's selling out. I mean, people are there to have a good time. It's a party, and you're playing music, and you're getting paid.
And
what's wrong with that?
On the latest New Music Strategies podcast, they were saying that if you want to make money in music, chances are you're probably not playing originals. You're playing covers.
That's the thing. And, you talked to my dad playing in the 80s, and he said for them to get to a point where they could play their originals, they were a cover band, and they would sneak in an original every set. And then after a while, people started requesting their originals. And after a while, they could sneak in more originals. And then they could do original sets. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's less satisfying to play covers sometimes because it's not yours.
Yeah.
It doesn't have your heart in the writing, I guess. But how can you, maybe we're approaching covers the wrong way. You can still put your heart into someone else's music.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I like to try to approach it from my own angles or bring my own ideas to it if I can.
And people just eat that up.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do. Back to that hot dog lunch, I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember that it was because I was teaching at MCC Airdrie for a while, and I got a lot of different weird gigs out of that, and that was one of them. So, but performing on the street, the one challenge there was I do seem to recall that it was pretty rough on the voice after a while.
It can be challenging, yeah. Outdoors.
I think I may have sold a CD or two, but I don't recall it being a paid gig. Another one that I did in Airdrie was a library after-hours networking event, like a business networking event.
We've also had an interesting gig in Airdrie.
Yes.
We've played a bus.
Yeah, our timber. That would definitely be an alternative
We
one.
played a bus. I've played a fireworks display.
I don't want to sound like negative Nancy. I just feel like so many of these things we've done could have or definitely should have gone over better than they did. Maybe
I think some of it's marketing, right? Yeah. I think our timber forgot to tell everybody that we were playing the bus.
Yeah.
They asked us to, and then they didn't.
Convenient.
And then they didn't tell anybody. Let's see, a parking lot. You've played a parking lot at North Hill Mall?
Yeah, with Jonathan Ferguson.
Yeah.
That was cool because Sears was paying very well. So I would say of a lot of the alternative gigs I've done, that was pretty cool.
A lot of people think corporate's selling out. I was listening to some people talking about the film industry, and they were talking about she's a makeup artist, he is a grip, and they were talking about how they're starting to refer to the actual film industry, if that's what you call it, the creative stuff, the films, the TV series, as the dark side. The hours are crap. You're away from your loved one for 4 weeks at a time at a hotel in the middle of nowhere. They could end up on the same film and not see each other for 6 months.
Interesting.
And the hours are miserable, really, really miserable work. Sometimes I'm not saying it's all miserable work. I mean, it's really cool and it's rewarding and there's some perks, but it can really suck. But if they do corporate, they can do all the same stuff and they can get paid very, very well to do somebody's infomercial or training video or whatever. A lot of people pass up corporate and go, oh, it's selling out. Is it? They're paying you. You're getting to do your creative stuff and people are hearing your music or they're hearing whatever. You know, what's wrong with writing a jingle for that? What's wrong with writing a jingle for a commercial?
Yeah.
I don't see any problem with that. You're still being creative. People are hearing your voice. And how many people have heard someone's voice and then gone and bought their CD later?
Definitely. Yeah, it needs a lot of exposure. It's not like every person's going to buy your CDs, so it needs repeated lessons and repeated exposures for that to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, imagine playing that gig in a library, a networking event. They had me play instrumentals at first. I was just like, you know, I've prepared a couple of different sets depending on what you want me to do. Mm-hmm. I can do the kind of guitar instrumentals, a little laid back, a little quieter. And I've also got vocal material that I can pull out a little later. And so the first set I did, very quiet, very in the background, barely noticed. But the second set I did, I turned up a bit more, did the vocal thing, because I was like, let's just give it a try. I'm not sure if it's going to fly, but because I know it's a library.
Yeah.
And actually it did, that went over much better.
Oh yeah, why not?
And it was a gig that I did get an honorarium for.
Oh, good.
But it
good.
was not like a
A lot of money.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of money for a solo artist. That's maybe okay, and you can throw that in your separate artist account, which you should have, peoples.
Yes, please take care of your. It is tax season. I am hearing people tell me some horror stories. I've taken some tax courses, partially because I want to be a business owner. So I went and took H&R Block tax courses, so I know a couple things. And then people are going, did you know blah, 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 now I owe money? Well, yes. If the government finds out you're earning it and you didn't report it, you are screwed.
If you're a business owner, there are many tax advantages, so make sure that...
if you are a musician...
You shouldn't be owing a lot.
Do it right.
Yeah. Played grand openings, that not necessarily alternative gig, and it can be pretty lucrative as well.
It can be excellent. Yeah, it's a corporate thing, but why not?
Christmas banquets. That was also, I had to get a 4-piece together for that, but it was still worth it. It still got paid pretty good.
Oh yeah,
it was a church, so maybe not standard rates, but it was still paid.
If you could get in doing that corporate, I mean, why not?
Yeah, it could lead to other things. Community dinners, I remember doing that. I did find it to be a fairly underappreciated gig, but if you just wanted to sit in the background and practice your craft, you could.
And we did that at that one cafe.
Yeah.
I think the people listening enjoyed it almost more than the cafe because I think they felt that people were less likely to sit and chat and buy things. But at the same time, we had a lot of people thanking us and seeing us on the street and putting some decent coin in. A couple people did. I'm never going to complain when somebody throws in more than change.
Totally. So it all depends. But yeah, the majority of the ones that I played were maybe a little underappreciated.
Yeah, that happens.
Stampede breakfasts, that's kind of a big thing.
Those can be very lucrative.
Yeah, usually paid pretty well. Usually a set that didn't necessitate a lot of practice or preparation either. Usually on a Saturday morning or Friday morning or something that was convenient. So I don't think those exist everywhere in the world, but
hey, everybody's got some kind of
usually there's
summer festival or event that's parade. The big deal. Yeah.
Something that coincides with that. I don't recall this gig for the life of me, but apparently I did a family services anniversary in Airdrie as well.
Oh, cool.
Another alternative gig I did there. I did one house concert. I sort of wish I'd had a little more experience in that because I have heard that can be pretty cool experience.
I've heard some awesome things. I've been to some awesome house concerts.
Yeah, totally. I've been to one. Pat and I played the Cochrane Trade Show.
You know, okay, I have to tell you this as a model. Oh my God. Oh, Dave, you haven't even heard this story. 2 weeks ago, I did the Carstairs Trade Show. I'm currently the quote-unquote fluffy or plus-size model for Choo Choo Cheeks Lingerie.
Sure.
There is a business that if you want, we do our consumer report. Holy cow, if you are a woman and you are an odd fit or curvy or anything, drive to Olds and go to Choo Choo Cheeks Lingerie. I know you're a guy, so you probably don't understand how important good support is. It's very important. It can wreck your back. It can cause all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
It sucks. What sucks more is having an odd size and going into stores and not being treated properly. And that's very common in Calgary. And they're overpriced, I found there's a rate that they're allowed to charge for bras, and they're overcharging in Calgary. Yes, they're in some of the trendy neighborhoods like Kensington or downtown or some of these places. But I also found almost zero respect at some of them. Bratopia, I'm looking at you. When I make a complaint and you turn to me and tell me, well, it's busy, what do you expect? That is not okay. Any circumstance.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. A really bad experience there. Made me very uncomfortable, made some poor guy uncomfortable, and my complaint was not even remotely registered. I say this, it's hard to make me uncomfortable. I'm modeling lingerie at trade shows in Carstairs with AstroTurf for a catwalk. AstroTurf with Christmas lights was our catwalk.
Wow.
It was something else. Trade shows. We were walking between John Deere tractors and motorcycles. It was something else. But we were out there doing it, and I got called fat while I was on the runway.
Wow. I'm
a plus size model. Yes, I'm bigger. There was an even bigger model than me, and these girls' reaction was terrible. Unfortunately, I wasn't 100% professional, and I did start rushing through my posing. I saw video of it and went, ooh, that's bad. But those trade shows are interesting, and it's amazing what you'll get out in the trade show. And I think music would have made that trade show a whole lot better.
Was there not music?
There was not any live music.
That scares me a lot.
The only music I heard the whole night was when they were playing our runway music.
Okay, at least there was that.
Yeah. There's always music in a fashion show. There's an alternative gig for you. There's a lot of great fashion shows in Calgary as they're trying to step up the industry here.
There are. Calgary Stampede, yet again, there's sometimes the fashion.
There was a fashion show. There's actually, we're working on a Calgary Fashion Week. Western Canada Fashion Week exists. Edmonton Fashion Week. Yeah. They're trying to make it bigger and better like the New York Fashion Week. It's going to take us a while to get there. Something New York Fashion Week sometimes does is brings live musicians on stage, super popular musicians, while, say, Victoria's Secret's going down the runway. Why not approach a fashion week and say, hey, I do music. Can I serenade your crowd while your lovely models walk?
Especially if you figure you could do like an Andrew Lloyd Webber thing, like really atmosphere music.
It wasn't even atmosphere music. It was like, God, who did I see on
like
the Victoria's Secret?
Standard.
They're kind
That's
of
typical.
It wasn't quite an ounce, but it was a. Who did Victoria's Secret this year?
Like Rihanna or someone like that.
Yes, it was Rihanna.
Yeah,
I think it was Rihanna.
Makes sense. Nuno Bencourt, one of my favorite guitarists, plays for Rihanna.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's exceptional, right? So, like, if you can get away with something like that, I don't see why you couldn't have more variety in those settings.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, why not approach a fashion week, especially in a small city like ours? Well, we're not small, but you know what I mean.
We're not big either. It's kind of a weird size.
We're mid-size, and people are trying to make a name for it. Yeah. Why not approach them at this stage and go, hey, can I do some live music?
The better, for sure, so they can get warmed
up
to the idea.
Or ACAD has a fashion week.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's interesting what you mentioned about like plus size models and stuff like that too, though, because like I stumbled upon an article today that was about Abercrombie and Finch.
I'm going to have a shoot coming out in response to that.
Yeah.
Have you seen him? I'm sorry, this is so judgmental and nasty.
I wasn't going to sit there and sift through this entire article. I was just like, it's another example of what's kind of negative in the world right now.
It's so negative, and forgive me, but the guy, I don't think he's particularly attractive. Another thing that's going on right now is there's a TV show, I think it's in Europe, it might be North America, where women disrobe on camera and two middle-aged, not thin men sit there and critique these women's bodies.
Wow.
Please turn around. So-and-so sitting next to me is an ass man is actually a line from this TV series. How this ever got approved as a television series is beyond me.
That sounds scary.
And the Abercrombie and Fitch thing really bothers me as well. Only these women that are this size are allowed to shop in this store.
Yeah.
It is common knowledge that fat shaming does not help people lose weight, often causes people to binge eat, and is all around destructive. And yet here's this guy fat shaming. Lululemon I don't support anymore either because they no longer carry certain sizes. And there's a local dance store, The Mask, after being called fat twice in there I will not shop at, being told I was too fat to dance. There's a good way to encourage people to be active. Don't ever judge another person's body.
Nope.
Yes, I'm a plus size model. You never know what people are going through. A lot of the plus size models I know were straight models at one point and have health conditions or can no longer keep up the eating disorders.
Yeah.
Because something to realize is that a lot of women
Or airbrushing.
say that they are not dealing, I get airbrushed,
Yeah.
but not in the same ways. A lot of women say that they are not experiencing eating disorders in the fashion world. The percentage of women that can get away doing that is very small. There are healthy models out there.
Yeah.
Healthy is the New Skinny, run by, I can't remember the name of the model. She also runs Natural Model Management, which has models who are surfers and athletes and women whose bodies would never in a million years, they would be rejected. And the one model they have was rejected by Billabong. She's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful girl, looks great in a bikini. And she's being rejected by a Billabong. Why? She's not skinny and big boobed. Beauty is in the eye of beholder. I saw something today that said how to get a bikini body, put a bikini on your body. I have a bikini body, folks. Really put a bikini on your body. Some men like skinny girls who look like boys. Yep. Some men like girls with big boobs and are skinny. Yep. Some men like girls with little boobs and a giant bum. Yep. Some men are afraid of big boobs. I have a friend who confessed to me that his phobia is big boobs. I have heard that. Some men like round girls. Some men like skinny girls. Some girls are skinny and trying to gain weight because they're told that they're anorexic. Well, there's another kind of shaming that isn't doing anybody any good because now you've got women doing unhealthy things to gain weight.
Yep, that's right.
You don't know what's going on with the person that you're looking at. Don't judge. Don't ever judge another person's body. And I guess perhaps it's a little judgmental for me to mention that Abercrombie and Fitch's CEO isn't the best looking man or whatever. But
that's the level they've
The reality is we're all human beings with different bodies. If you wouldn't be comfortable standing up, these two guys who are critiquing women's bodies, if they wouldn't be comfortable with two middle-aged women who might have a few extra pounds sitting on a couch talking about how small certain things are and how they've got a pot belly, maybe they shouldn't be doing it.
Yep.
I have a real issue with some of these things. So my thing, I'm trying to get together a shoot. I have a makeup artist. I'm going to approach some people about wardrobe. Going to get together my response to Abercrombie and Fitch. I know you're like my brother, but forgive me, deal with it. It's going to be a lingerie shoot. I'm going to be in underwear and bra. I don't care that I've got a belly. I don't care that I have scars. Not all my scars can be seen easily, but the one on my leg sort of can be. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do a shoot showing that you don't have to be thin to be beautiful, and you don't have to be thin to be in the in crowd. And I may not have ever necessarily been in the in crowd growing up. I have a crowd now that loves me, that I love, and that's all I need to have an exclusionary in crowd.
Yeah.
Or sorry, inclusionary.
Right.
My English is going at this hour.
Not to go too far in this tangent, but what's out in the world right now is pretty disappointing. It really cheapens the real experience of person-to-person relationship, and
Yes.
texting cheapens it. TV shows, like you're talking about, cheapens
Facebook.
it. Modeling is kind of
Thanks.
not always. I think there's definitely a lot of good aspects of, like, the same way there's good aspects of photography and music.
Exactly, yeah.
But music is sometimes cheapening the relationship.
Music and relationship, yeah.
Yeah, so when you really think about it, like it's sort of
Have
is
you
everybody.
seen? Well, and it's not just women's bodies we're shaming; it's men. I saw this
Yeah.
6-pack squisher thing. You put this grid over your abs and tie it on until, I'm sure this is painful. Wear it for a few hours, take it off, and it'll leave an imprint of 6-pack abs on your stomach.
Seems pointless.
Why would some man squish himself into this thing? Oh my God. You guys are great the way you are. You don't need a 6-pack. You need an awesome personality.
I don't think you need to cheapen the price of working towards it either.
Yeah, if you want to work out and take care of your body, I'm a nutritionist. I'm all about health. Do it.
Yeah.
Don't be unhealthy. I mean, there are men who spend 4 or 5 hours a day in the gym and eat ridiculous things that are not doing their bodies
No.
good.
I don't believe in
risking their kidneys with some of the stuff I've seen. Please don't do that. But if you want to take care of yourself and you want to work out and have a good time playing sports with your friends, do it. Have a good time.
I understand how, like, we all splurge on things sometimes, but I don't believe in binge anything. You have to do a little bit every day.
Thank you.
A little bit every day
Balance.
is the success is how you achieve success in life. If you clean your house 10 minutes every day, it's enough to keep it up.
Don't look around my house right now, Dave.
Hey, we're all in the same position. If you spend 30 minutes exercising every day, you can be very, very healthy.
Yeah,
and
you
you
can.
could even shed some pounds.
Yeah.
If you played guitar for half an hour every day,
You'd be an amazing guitar player.
it'd take longer than some people, but it's not binge guitar playing where suddenly, you're up to 10 hours one day and you're down to 0 minutes the next day, and then you're up to 3 hours and
Oh
you're
my
down to 20
gosh.
minutes, and then you're up. No, it just doesn't. Life doesn't work that way.
No, it
it's
doesn't.
a little bit every day,
Yeah.
being consistent, and you doesn't have to be a lot of time. It can be
Yep.
10 to 30 minutes. It could be 30 minutes to an hour if you can spend that. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Moderation
definitely. So I think now we'll get back to the
and self-love. I'm all about the love.
I don't know. I think I'm having breakthroughs. I'm still talking about the same thing, but I feel like I'm personally having breakthroughs in that area too. I'm recognizing that a relationship, it really isn't just about looks. And I mean, everybody moves past that stage at some point.
Oh,
I think.
yeah.
But it's about, it is about the person too. And hopefully you are attracted to them, but you're attracted to them for a variety of reasons. And that's what God intended. It's the mystery of it. It's the excitement of it. It's,
Oh, yeah.
It's so much more. It's the lure of it. It's so much more than just how we've cheapened it, I think, is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, it's not about legs or bums or boobs or arms or...
No.
When I mean, yeah, it's just... Ugh.
I recently heard a very successful man say, don't marry your wife for her bum or her boobs. Marry her for her brain.
So a while back, some friends of mine got married off of eHarmony.
Yeah.
3 different women I know got married that way. And bought me one of those gift certificates. I was on there for a little bit. I didn't necessarily like it. But it did say, if you can attract my brain, you will have me for life. As a woman, a guy who's attracted to your brain and who tries to speak to that intellectual side of you, and there's got to be a lot of other things, humor.
Yeah.
You know me. I need humor.
Pursuit, I think.
I need laughter in my life. Pursuit.
Every woman needs a little bit of that, too.
But if you can hit a woman on an emotional level where you treat her for more than her body or her ability to cook or clean or any of those things, she's going to be really flattered.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women in our society are not given the benefit of the doubt as far as their brains go.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Exactly. I'm with you.
Awesome.
That's a good point. So, back to alternative gigs.
Play a bus. I'm kidding.
Yeah, so the trade show, it was a neat experience. They had a little stage within a truck type deal. I don't think it was paid. We did get very good response from a few people. We did get a few contacts. Unfortunately, like many contacts that I seem to get at these events, it's not enough follow up to make something happen. We played as a band a skateboard competition.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
I don't recall if there's pay. But there was a proper merch booth where we could set up like a proper.
I remember
merch
that.
booth.
I remember buying a CD at the time.
Yeah, we definitely sold some merch there and had some newsletter signups and that kind of thing.
That's back when I was a fan.
Yes. Home and Garden Fair I played at once.
Oh, nice. Trade shows. People, go approach some trade shows.
Yeah.
The Comic-Con had a booth. That was a band.
Last year too.
Dude, they were cheesy. They were awesome, but they were kind of, and it wasn't at the corral. It was a booth. And I think what I found was cheesy was they had to play kind of electric instruments, if you know what I mean, like an electric drum kit and stuff, because they had to keep the volume down. And that kind of annoyed me.
That can kind of kill it, yeah.
Yeah, because I like my sound. And they weren't really allowed to do that. Dude, play some trade shows. Approach some trade shows and go, hey, do you want some music here or there? The Auto Show has bands. Mm-hmm. The World of Wheels had a couple rockabilly bands.
Stick around after the show for a free performance by Limousine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. We did the pinup competition and Eve Hell and the Razors. Oh my gosh, amazing female fronted band. Love Eve Hell and the Razors. Go check them out.
Yeah. And those were some of the things that I've played. I guess theater as well. I don't remember what that gig was.
I'll tell you one that I can think of off the top of my head. Working in a theater, I can tell you a couple. The local garden variety show always has a music guest.
Yes. In Calgary, there is that.
The Collective, back when they were, I can't remember
Collective.
the name. Yeah, when they were Market Collective. They're now just the Collective. They've grown up, gotten more mature, and an edgy name. They're awesome. These kids did the Jeff Healey, what was it?
Memorial or something?
100 gig challenge prior to they're not the Junos. What are they called? Canadian Music Awards.
Isn't it the Junos?
Is it the Junos?
I think so.
The Junos and the...
Not the Grammys.
No, I thought the Junos were Canadian film.
Oh, maybe.
They just happened, actually. Prior to it, any city that hosts it has a whole bunch of music stuff. And 100 days prior, these kids played a gig every single day. They approached, I can't imagine how many different places. They played Safeways. They played the intermission of our show at Loose Moose Theater. They played
Brilliant.
malls.
Yes, malls. Yeah.
These kids did 100 gigs in 100 days. It was a challenge that was set up prior to the Canadian Music Awards. Holy crap, kids. These kids had more drive than 95% of the musicians that I've ever met. Mm-hmm. And they were, I think, not even out of high school when this occurred.
Wow.
Do it up. Go play it. If it can be played, play it.
I confirmed it. Yes, it is the Juno.
It is the Junos.
Canadian
Okay.
Music Awards.
The Genie Awards are our film.
Yes.
Why do we have to name them both with that sound?
Junos, Genies. Yeah, I don't know.
Anybody confused yet? I am.
And I think maybe to wrap up this section, like guerrilla style, I think there is opportunity for like guerrilla style performance.
Yeah,
where,
art
like,
openings.
If you had a truck that was properly equipped, you could pull down the side and perform anywhere. Right?
You know,
I mean,
everybody has their Kensington district in their city.
There are
ours is called
limitations.
Kensington. Yeah. And there's laws you have to abide by.
There's also venues that don't have a blanket license, as we talked about before.
Yeah.
So there are some limitations, but within what is mostly legal, hopefully.
Yeah, play a movie opening.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Movie theaters, yeah.
Go apply to movie theaters. Everybody's got their local film industry, and all these local film industries have red carpet. We're going to premiere our movie to the local town, and often when they first start out with these movies, it'll get premiered in their town, and then it'll go to different film festivals, and sometimes they'll do premieres in other countries, and when they do, they'll have a gala prior. Why let them play pre-recorded canned music?
Yeah.
call them up and go, oh, I see you guys are doing an opening. Do you want a live band? Well, how much do you charge? Come up with a decent rate. Don't, keep in mind these filmmakers probably paid for their film out of their pocket and are in a lot of debt and are trying to make their money back. But, keep that in mind. But, try it out, see what happens.
You could also make like cameos in independent films.
Absolutely. There's a jazz musician who was on Bomb Girls and is apparently getting a lot of attention. And if I could remember her name right now, I would tell you. But she sang, and I'm not talking about the girl who played the singer. I'm talking about the singer that she heard and was like, oh my gosh, oh, maybe I should do that. Go see. Like, there's a lot of things you can cameo on. How many people got their music more widely distributed because WB featured a song that two teenagers danced to at the school dance?
Yeah. And I mean, of course, we talked a little bit about licensing and placements, but that could be such a lucrative thing if you get onto, I don't know what's popular for reality right now, but for a while there was The Hills and there was Survivor.
Forgive me, but also approach those fledgling, I don't want to call them fledgling, but starting out producers and film artists. And
I think that's where a good place to start.
Call it indie film or whatever, because you never know, like, if you treat them well and they treat you well, their next movie could really take off.
Yeah.
You could have started a relationship where they go, I really like working with that musician there. I'm going to hire them to do all my music for my series.
Yeah, like, I don't want to call it like keeping in the family, but there is an element of that. If you look at Hollywood, like how many movies, Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller, or Ben Stiller and Vince Vaughn, or Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson.
A little bit of that. There's a lot of, I was talking to a director the other day who says, I love working with such and such musician back when I was in this country, and now I've moved, and how am I ever going to find somebody that I mesh with that same way? Approach people. They might be looking for something and you might be looking for something. Filmmakers are always looking for somebody to do their closing credit song. Yeah. Sometimes they can pay you. Sometimes all they can do is offer you royalties.
I mean, you have to get royalties and proper credit. If they're not doing that, then you might want to step away from the game. But.
Keeping in mind, some of these filmmakers start out with $100 films.
Yeah.
Look at Fubar. Fubar, I don't know if it was quite $100 film, but it was a college project. It did very, very well. Some local people, I'm not sure. I know their music. I think their music would have had to have been licensed. I'm not quite sure where that came from. I could go talk to them.
Yeah.
I loosely know them. You could probably go talk to them and ask them. But keep in mind, some of these people do start with $100 films. All they can offer you is credit.
Yeah.
And food. There's always food on a set. But keep in mind, Fubar started as one of those things they did in college. The second time around, there was a lot of money backing them up for Fubar 2. If you had worked with them on number 1 doing their music, I guarantee you got a paycheck on number 2, and it was a good one.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I think what I'm trying to get at is, as long as there's proper, accreditation,
yes,
and then royalties organizations, you bring that into play, then you should be getting the amount that you're owed properly.
Film is
even if you don't get like a paycheck per se.
Without going too far into it, film is a very interesting method of remuneration, especially if you're selling to the States.
Okay.
You get a flat rate. So if I was to sell a film to the States and they're like, okay, we'll distribute in the States, we don't think this is very good and going to take off. Here's $50,000 or $100,000. That's all you get. Doesn't matter how many copies of your film we sell. Keep in mind there are agreements like that with certain countries and companies.
Right. All right. Well, do you have any other thoughts on alternative performance?
I think my thought is think outside the box.
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
A little bit. I another reason that I wanted to address this, and I'll just be sincere, is because whenever I think of doing music, I'm always thinking on a bigger scale. Like, I'd rather chase the big dream, the big vision, make more than I personally need, more than just for me, but for others too. And so I don't want to discredit or discount those people who would just like to get another extra $500 a month in their pocket doing music on the side. never. I think that's a great aspiration, and think what that would do for most families if they could bring in an extra $500 a month.
It would make a huge difference for us.
Yeah, it would make a big difference for a lot of people. So I never want to discount that. It's just sometimes that's where my mind goes. So I'm like, I go off on
But it's easy.
You gotta be like aggressive. And
sometimes you want to just go, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to reach the number of people I want with my music?
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes playing funerals is lucrative, you know? And it seems funny, but
if you're just looking for a paycheck, there are many different ways to attain that.
well, and you can also, believe it or not, sometimes do your original music in funerals, in weddings, in playing for dance troupes.
I think I read an article where someone was talking about how lucrative a funeral was, as conflicted they felt about it.
Yeah, that's what my friend was saying. She's like, I feel kind of guilty, but I felt guilty taking the gig initially. Yeah. And then the family came up and was crying and happy and hugging me, and I didn't feel so guilty anymore because she realized that, at a certain point when people are going through those kinds of things, it's really a gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode.
It's a very long one, kids.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. Wow. Okay. So we're going to catch you in the next episode. Until then.
You've been listening to the David Andrew Wiebe Interviews and Music Business Podcast, broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
This has been a Red Flame production. To learn more about Red Flame, go to redflamerecords.com.